She was only 19 years old when she disappeared without a sound. One minute she was laughing on a hiking trail in Washington state, and the next, gone. No screams, no footprints, no body, just silence. For 19 years, her family searched for answers. They buried hopes. They chased shadows. And then, last week, her backpack surfaced in a reservoir, 40 miles from where she was last seen. Inside it, a cracked camera, a torn map, and a necklace her sister never stopped looking for. But the strangest part? The backpack didn't look 19 years old, and the diary that was always with her was missing. But before we begin, I want to know, where in the world are you watching from? She was last seen on a hiking trail. Her backpack just washed up 19 years later. The rain had stopped just an hour before. The trees were still dripping, the ground was slick with a mix of mud and pine needles, and the scent of damp earth clung heavy in the air. Somewhere in the heart of the Icicle Ridge Trail in Leavenworth, Washington, a girl was laughing. It was the kind of laugh that echoed lightly, not loud enough to scare away the birds, but warm enough to make you turn your head. Rachel Whitmore, 19 years old, stood near the edge of a sloping ridge, her boots planted firmly in wet soil, staring out over the valley below. A coil of auburn hair escaped her ponytail and stuck to her neck. Her breath rose in soft puffs. It was colder than expected for late May. She had brought her leather-bound journal, as always, tucked deep in the side pocket of her forest green backpack, right next to a Ziploc bag with trail mix and an old disposable camera she refused to upgrade. She was a collector of moments, not photos. The forest was alive around her. Birds rustled high in the canopy. A small stream trickled nearby. The wind was picking up again, just enough to sway the tops of the trees. And behind her, there was silence. No footsteps, no voices, just silence. That was the last confirmed moment anyone ever saw Rachel Whitmore. She vanished. No scream, no scuffle, no sign of panic, just gone. The search lasted weeks. Helicopters, volunteers, police dogs, drones, flyers plastered across the town. Her face, young, radiant, slightly freckled, watched from every coffee shop, school hallway, and community board in Leavenworth. Her backpack, her boots, her body. None of it was ever found. Until last week, 19 years later. In the summer of 2024, during a record drought that had lowered the water levels of nearby Franklin Reservoir by over 6 feet, something snagged in the turbines of the old water intake tower. A backpack, forest green, faded, moldy, but intact. Inside, a soggy but readable park map, a cracked camera, and a necklace, a silver maple leaf charm. The tag inside the bag read one name in smudged black ink, R. Whitmore. But the journal, her lifeline, was missing, and so the town of Leavenworth remembered again. The case that had once been a whispered legend, the girl who disappeared on Icicle Ridge, was now a front-page headline. Emily Whitmore had spent the last 19 years learning how to sleep with a ghost in the house. Her older sister's absence had become the wallpaper of her life, present even when not looked at directly. At 35, she had learned to speak of Rachel in past tense around strangers, but never at home, never to their father, not after the divorce, not after the fights, not after what it did to him. And now this backpack, this message in a bottle from the past, had appeared. No note, no remains, just enough to raise questions, not give answers. Emily stood in the police evidence room now, holding the bag with gloved hands. Her breath caught when her fingers grazed the silver leaf charm. It was cold, not because of the air conditioning, but because it still felt alive. "Where did they find it again?" she asked quietly, her voice barely carrying over the buzz of fluorescent lights. Detective Joel Monroe, now in his early 50s, sighed. "Franklin Reservoir, intake tower. We had to shut the turbines down for inspection after a hiker reported strange noises. This was stuck in the metal grate. Franklin's 40 miles from where she disappeared? 41, Joel corrected. Downhill? Emily didn't say anything for a long time. How does a backpack get from a ridge trail to a reservoir 4 counties away, completely untouched for almost 2 decades? She finally asked. Joel didn't answer, because the truth was he didn't know. No one did, but someone had to. In the weeks that followed, the backpack became the obsession of every online sleuth from Spokane to Seattle. Reddit threads exploded. Theories emerged like weeds. She ran away and drowned. She was taken. The backpack was planted. This is just a hoax. But it wasn't a hoax. Emily knew that bag. The pen marks on the inside flap were Rachel's handwriting. The charm was the last birthday gift she ever gave her sister. And the camera, old, water-damaged, and rusted, had its film cartridge still sealed. It was sent to a specialized lab in Oregon for restoration. The photos would take weeks. In the meantime, Emily did what she hadn't done in 19 years. She went back to the trail. The forest hadn't changed. The air still smelled of pine and rain. The moss still crept over the rocks like slow-growing skin. But Rachel wasn't here, at least not physically. Emily hiked with purpose, her boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. She paused often, not because she was tired, but because she remembered. Each bend, each split in the trail was a memory. Her sister's voice, laughing, talking about the novel she wanted to write, the people she wanted to meet. And then there was the clearing, a narrow, half-forgotten space just off the main path, almost invisible to anyone not looking. Emily had never noticed it before, but Rachel had. There were rocks arranged in a pattern, unnaturally neat, a half-rotted log carved with something. Emily knelt, brushing away dirt and moss. It was faint, but it was there. R.W., 2005. Emily stared at the carving, her chest tightening. Rachel had been here, sat here, carved this. And now, 19 years later, a bag had resurfaced, as if summoned by that same silence Rachel had vanished into. But who brought it back, or worse, who had kept it this whole time? That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The carving, the backpack, the charm, and most of all, the missing journal. Rachel never went anywhere without it, and she never stopped writing. If someone had the journal, they had her story. And maybe the truth. She sat in her childhood room, surrounded by old yearbooks, notes, and fading photos. Her fingers hovered over her laptop as she typed into Google, "Unsolved cases near Leavenworth, 2005, 2007. Then another search, Franklin Reservoir turbine inspection history. One result stood out, a maintenance report filed in 2012. Notes included, minor blockage in auxiliary intake channel. Debris assumed to be organic. Emily's heart dropped. What if the bag had appeared before? What if it wasn't in the reservoir for 19 years? What if someone put it there recently? And if so, why now? A knock came at the front door. It was almost midnight. Her father was asleep. Emily froze. The porch light flickered on, casting long shadows. When she opened the door, no one was there, only a padded envelope on the mat, no return address. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single item, a journal, worn leather cover, water-stained. The initials R.W. etched in fading ink, her sister's diary. But the first 10 pages had been ripped out, and on the inside cover, a single sentence was written in red ink. I thought I was safe. There are parts of the house that Emily never entered anymore. The basement, for instance, where her father kept all the boxes from Rachel's old room, where the moving trucks had unloaded half a life's worth of memories after the divorce, where dust and silence lived together. Or the linen closet in the upstairs hallway, behind the towels, where Rachel had once hidden Emily's Christmas gift in 2004, a silver bookmark in the shape of a feather, wrapped in old newspaper comics. Emily never used it. She kept it inside her sock drawer for years, until she forgot. There was no forgetting anymore. Not since the backpack, not since the journal, not since someone placed it on her doorstep at midnight and vanished. Emily Whitmore was 35, but most days she felt much older. Trauma does that. It stretches time, adds years to your spine and your sleep. She was a forensic psychologist for the state of Washington, working mostly on cases involving missing persons and cold leads. Ironic, considering her own life was marked by one unsolved case that never left her. She didn't talk about Rachel much. Most people didn't even know she had a sister. It was easier that way. Because whenever someone did ask, the questions would come. What happened? Did they ever find anything? Was it murder? Do you think she ran away? And Emily would give the same answer every time, I don't know. But she did know. She knew Rachel better than anyone, and Rachel would never have left without writing. She would never have left her. Their childhood was wrapped in long summers and longer silences. Rachel, the golden child, was older by 4 years. Smart, self-sufficient, always scribbling in her journal or reading a thick book about places Emily had never heard of. Iceland, Bhutan, Patagonia. She wanted to go everywhere. Emily was the opposite, anxious, reserved, afraid of being forgotten. Rachel never let that happen. She taught Emily how to tie her shoes, how to ride a bike, how to sneak snacks during movies without their mom noticing. And when their parents argued, which was often, Rachel would pull Emily into her room, close the door, and turn on music until the yelling stopped. She was everything Emily wasn't, bold, curious, unafraid. And then she was gone. The day Rachel disappeared was a Saturday, May 28, 2005. Emily was 16. She remembered it vividly, the way you remember breaking a bone. There was a soft sadness in the sky that day, gray clouds rolling in low like secrets. Rachel had promised she'd be back before dinner. She packed her bag, kissed their mother's cheek, winked at Emily, and left. She never came home. The police were called that night. The first search party was organized by dawn. By the second week, their mother stopped eating. By the third, their father had moved into the guest room and stopped talking. 6 months later, he filed for divorce. Joel Monroe was a rookie detective back then. Emily remembered him clearly, young, tired, overly serious, and kind. He brought her hot chocolate during interviews and let her talk, even when she wasn't making sense. She trusted him. But the case went cold by Christmas, and Emily stopped trusting anyone. She buried herself in school, in work, in silence. When she graduated with honors from the University of Washington, she left Leavenworth and vowed never to return. But of course, life had other plans. Her mother died of a stroke in 2016. Her father grew increasingly reclusive, and Emily, despite all her training, all her therapy, all her strength, still dreamt of her sister's voice calling her name. The night she received Rachel's journal, she didn't open it, not right away. Instead, she placed it on her nightstand, stared at it for hours, and tried to remember the last words Rachel had ever said to her. It had been something small, something dumb. "Don't touch my peanut butter, Em." That was it. That was the last sentence she remembered before her sister walked into the woods and never came back. Now someone had the nerve to return the journal and tear out the first 10 pages. She opened it just after dawn. Her hands trembled as she turned each soaked, crinkled page. The ink had bled in places, the words still legible in others. Most entries were ordinary. Descriptions of trees, weather, books she was reading, a boy she had met in class named Noah Carter. Emily froze. She knew that name. Rachel's college boyfriend, short-term, quiet guy, worked at a bookstore downtown. He had shown up to the first vigil with flowers, never cried, never returned after that. She hadn't thought of him in years. But now, page after page, Rachel described their conversations, their walks, their kisses in the back seat of his old Volvo, And then, one entry, dated May 25, 2005. Noah said he wants to hike with me this weekend. He says there's something he wants to tell me, alone. Should I be nervous? He looked pale. Emily's blood ran cold. Rachel hadn't gone hiking alone. She went to meet Noah, and no one ever knew, until now. She met with Joel Monroe that afternoon. The police station hadn't changed. The same creaky chairs, the same humming vending machine in the corner that never worked. But Joel was different, older, slower, carrying decades of cases in his eyes. He read the diary entry in silence. "You ever look into him?" Emily asked. Joel nodded. Briefly. He was accounted for that day, worked a shift at his uncle's shop, clocked in and out. Could he have lied? Joel looked at her. Anyone could have lied. Emily narrowed her eyes. Did you ever suspect him? I didn't have a reason to. You do now. That evening, Emily stood outside Noah Carter's restaurant. It was a rustic place, reclaimed wood, Edison bulbs, that kind of aesthetic. It was called the Hiker's Fork. Of course it was. He was standing behind the bar when she entered, wiping a glass, laughing with a customer. He didn't recognize her at first. Not until she said, "Peanut butter." His face paled. "I'm sorry?" That was the last thing Rachel said to me before she left to meet you. Noah's smile died. He put down the glass. "Emily?" She nodded. You look so much like her. Let's talk." The conversation happened in the back room. It smelled of bleach and burnt oil. Emily sat across from him, watching his hands. They shook slightly. "I didn't hurt her," he said first. "I swear, I didn't say you did." "But you think I know something." Emily didn't answer. Noah rubbed his eyes. "She told me not to tell anyone we were meeting." "Why?" She was scared. "Of what?" She didn't say, just said someone was watching her. Emily felt her pulse quicken. "Who?" "I don't know." He paused. "She said it started after she wrote an article for the campus newspaper. About illegal logging near the ridge, said she found documents, names." Emily's jaw clenched. "And you didn't think to tell the police this?" "I was scared." "Of what?" Noah looked at her, dead serious. "Of ending up like her." The article didn't exist anymore. Emily called the University of Washington's archives the next morning. The campus newspaper from 2005 wasn't digitized. The editor from that time had passed away. There was no backup copy of Rachel's article. The file had been deleted from the library's microfiche database 3 years ago during an overhaul. Convenient. Too convenient. But Emily remembered something. In Rachel's room, now converted into a cold, dusty guest room, there had been a storage crate with old notebooks, not the journals, not the writing she shared with the world, but the ones she locked with tiny padlocks, marked only with colored tape or stickers. Emily had never dared to open them until now. She found the crate in the basement, shoved behind the water heater. The wood was cracked and the lid barely held together. Inside, dozens of notebooks, folders, a bundle of letters still wrapped in string, and one plastic bag, sealed with tape. Inside the bag, a cassette tape. Labeled April 2005, Ridge Notes. And below that, in smaller letters, "If something happens to me, start here." Emily's hands shook as she held it. She didn't own a cassette player. Who did? But her father did. She didn't warn him she was coming. The old house creaked like it was sighing under the weight of ghosts. Thomas Whitmore opened the door slowly, his eyes red from sleep or alcohol or both. His hair had gone gray, but the military rigidity still lingered in his shoulders. "Emily, I need your tape player." He stared at her, then nodded. Without a word, he led her to the garage. The workbench was cluttered with screwdrivers, bolts, empty whiskey bottles. Underneath it all, An old Sony cassette recorder, dust-covered but functional. She pressed play. Rachel's voice crackled through the static. "Okay, I'm recording this because I don't know who else to trust. I think I've found something I wasn't supposed to. The ridge isn't just a trail, it's a cover. I hiked off-path near mile marker 12 and saw a clearing. There was equipment, machinery, trucks, no logos. Everything was covered. I heard voices, men arguing. One of them said a name. McMahon or McCann, I'm not sure. I left, but I don't think they saw me. Except I found my backpack unzipped the next day. I hadn't touched it. If something happens, tell Emily I'm sorry." Emily froze. Her father's expression was unreadable. "Do you know that name?" she asked him. "McMahon?" Silence, then. "There was a John McMahon. He owned a timber company in the early 2000s. He died in 2008. Emily narrowed her eyes. "You never told me that. You never asked." "You were a soldier, Dad. You had contacts. Why didn't you—" "I looked," he snapped. "You think I didn't?" Emily took a step back. "I just didn't want to bury two daughters." Later that night, Emily sat with the tape again. She listened to it 5 times. Each time, Rachel's voice sounded more fragile, more frantic. And then she caught something she hadn't noticed before. A faint sound at the end of the tape, barely audible. A series of clicks, like a camera shutter. Then silence. Then a whisper, something she couldn't decipher. She sent the tape to a forensic audio technician she knew from a past case. She marked it urgent. She didn't sleep. And in the morning, a new envelope waited on her porch. No return address. Inside, a photograph. A blurred image of Rachel, standing in the woods, smiling, taken from a distance, too far to be friendly, too close to be accidental. There was only one person who might recognize the place in the photo. Joel Monroe. She drove straight to his office. He examined the photo under a desk lamp. His jaw tightened. "I know where this is," he said. "It's near the utility road on the west side of Icicle Ridge. It's closed to the public. Always has been." Emily felt a chill creep up her arms. "What's there?" "Nothing." "Joel." He hesitated, then said, "A decommissioned ranger station used to be part of a fire watch network back in the 80s. They shut it down after a rock slide. Officially, it's condemned." "Odd, but you've been there," he nodded. "Once in 2006. Emily stared at him. "Why?" Joel didn't answer right away. Finally, "Because we found something." It had never been in the report, Emily was sure of that. But now, in the flickering light of Joel's desk lamp, he pulled out a manila envelope labeled Unconfirmed Evidence, RW05. Inside, a photograph, a metal hair clip, a torn piece of fabric, and a map. On the map, a trail was marked in red. But at the very edge, near a hand-drawn X, were initials, RW. "We didn't have proof it was hers," Joel explained, "and the station was unsafe. The structure was collapsing. We sent a team, but they didn't find anything inside. But you didn't tell anyone. It wouldn't have helped. It would have helped me." Emily demanded they go back. Joel refused, but she didn't need his permission. She knew how to find it now. The hike took 2 hours. She wore Rachel's old jacket, found in a storage bin, still smelling faintly of cedar and lavender, and followed the route on the map. The trail narrowed, overgrown in places. At one point a branch scraped her cheek, drawing blood. She didn't stop. Eventually the trees opened to a small flat area, and there it was, the ranger station. Half buried in moss, with vines creeping through the cracks in its rotting exterior, the door hung open on rusted hinges. The roof sagged. Birds scattered as she approached. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and silence. Dust covered everything. And then she saw it, a boot, small, brown, half covered in moss. She stepped closer. And beside it, a metal charm, a maple leaf, the same as the one on the backpack, but this one was broken. She took photos, bagged the charm, didn't touch the boot. Then her phone buzzed, a voicemail. from a number she didn't recognize. No message, just static. And then a whisper, low, almost inaudible. Her name. Emily. She dropped the phone. That night she tried to sleep. She couldn't. Instead, she opened Rachel's diary again and noticed something strange on the inside of the back cover. Indented letters, as if someone had written hard on the page above it. She took a pencil and gently shaded the paper. The words came into view. Don't trust the one who says they looked. She froze, then remembered what her father had said. I looked. She stared at the sentence again. Her blood went cold. Emily didn't sleep that night. The words etched into the back cover of Rachel's journal burned through her thoughts like acid. Don't trust the one who says they looked. It echoed, repeated, gnawed. She sat in her kitchen, lights off, just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional passing car to break the silence. On the table were all the clues she'd collected, the backpack, the broken charm, the copy of the police map, and the photograph taken from the trees. And her father's words. I looked. He had said it defensively, painfully, like a man wounded. But something inside her shifted. A sliver of suspicion, a question she never dared ask before. What if the person who claimed to grieve was hiding something all along? By morning, she was at his house. He opened the door still in pajamas, his beard unkempt, eyes swollen. What are you doing here? He asked, voice low. Emily didn't wait. She stepped past him, storming into the living room. You said you searched for Rachel. I did. Then why didn't you tell me about the McMahon connection? He paused. Because it didn't matter. She mentioned him in a tape, in a diary entry. You think that doesn't matter? He sat heavily on the couch, rubbing his temples. There were people back then who didn't want questions asked. Were you one of them? He looked up. His face didn't betray anger, only shame. I was in contact with someone. A man who claimed to know things about what Rachel had seen. Who? I don't know his real name. He called himself Gray. Emily felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. You kept this secret for 19 years. I was trying to protect you. No, she said. You were protecting yourself. She left without another word. Back at her apartment, a voicemail waited. It was from the forensic audio technician. I've enhanced the background noise on your sister's tape. There's a voice at the end that wasn't hers. Male. Says a name. I'm sending the file now. Emily clicked the link. A crackle, then static. Then a deep voice, almost a whisper. Thomas said no one would find it. Her heart stopped. Thomas, her father. She didn't confront him again. She went to Joel. He listened in silence. I always thought your dad was hiding something, he admitted, but I had no proof. Emily stared at him. And you didn't tell me? I didn't want to push you away. She stepped back. Everyone keeps saying that, like pushing me away was better than telling the truth. Joel said nothing. Then he pulled a file from his desk drawer. I wasn't supposed to keep this. It was a typed statement dated 2006. The witness, Lydia Morgan. Emily froze. That name, she knew it. Lydia was Rachel's best friend during her first semester at UW. They'd lost touch after freshman year. Emily hadn't seen her since the vigil. Joel explained, she came forward with concerns. Said Rachel was being followed, but she left town soon after. The statement read, Rachel told me she saw something in the woods. She didn't give details, just said it was too big, said she wasn't safe. She thought someone was watching her dorm. She mentioned a name, Thomas. Emily's hands trembled. She found Lydia. It took hours. Old social media posts, wedding announcements, a trail of digital breadcrumbs. Lydia now lived in Portland. She was a high school teacher, married, 2 kids. Emily emailed, then called. When Lydia answered, her voice cracked. I've been waiting for this. They met in a cafe off Burnside, in a corner booth near the window. Lydia looked older, thinner, but her eyes were the same, watchful, cautious. She was scared, Lydia said. Not in a paranoid way, but in a real way. Of my dad? Lydia hesitated. She said he was connected to something, that he had friends in the timber industry, that he'd warned her not to write the article. Emily's mind reeled. She thought he was trying to silence her. She didn't say that, but she didn't trust him. Did she ever say she was planning to run? No, quite the opposite. She said she wanted the truth out, that if something happened, someone should keep digging. On her way back to Leavenworth, Emily stopped at a gas station. As she filled the tank, her phone buzzed. A text, unknown number. Stop digging. That night, her apartment window was shattered. She filed a police report. But Joel was the only one who took it seriously. I'll put a cruiser outside for the night, he said. But, Emily, be careful. She nodded. But she wasn't going to stop. There was one more person she needed to see. Noah. She found him outside his restaurant, locking up for the night. I need your help, she said. He stared at her. After all this time? She trusted you. She also told me not to say anything. Well, she's not here now, and someone just threatened me. He swallowed. Okay. They drove back to the ranger station, together, this time with flashlights, gloves, and a small shovel. Emily had a hunch. Near the clearing where the broken charm had been found, there was a patch of earth that didn't match the rest. Softer, sunken slightly. They dug. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then metal. A box, inside, photographs, documents, and a letter. Rachel's handwriting. If you found this, then I was right. They were logging protected land, illegally. My dad knew. He helped hide it. They threatened me. I ran, but they found me. I don't know if I'll make it back, but someone needs to know. Emily dropped to her knees. The world spun. Her father had known, and her sister had prepared for the worst. As they left the station, headlights flashed through the trees. A truck, black, unmarked, blocking the trail. Someone stepped out. Gun drawn. The headlights blinded them. Emily's hand instinctively reached for Noah's arm as the truck's engine growled. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, face shadowed beneath a cap. He didn't speak, just lifted his arm. The gun glinted in the beam of the flashlight. "Run," Noah whispered. But Emily stood frozen. She wasn't running. Not this time. The man took one step closer, then another. Emily's fingers curled into fists. "No," she said loud and clear. The figure paused. Then from the distance, tires screeched. Another vehicle came barreling down the trail. Headlights flashed again. "Joel?" The man turned, fired a shot. It went wide and disappeared into the woods. The chase was short. Joel stayed with Emily while 2 responding deputies pursued the suspect. They lost him in the ravine. "He was watching us," Emily said as they sat on the back of Joel's car. "He knew where we were." "He didn't expect you to dig," Joel replied. But someone else had expected it and prepared for it. Back at the station, Emily handed over the box Rachel had buried. The photographs showed illegally logged areas, trucks with falsified tags, a document signed by someone named T. Whitmore, and the letter. The words branded her chest. "They threatened me. I ran, but they found me." The news broke within 24 hours. Local reporters swarmed the small town. A former soldier turned businessman implicated in a cover-up tied to illegal logging and the disappearance of his own daughter. Thomas Whitmore refused to comment until the warrant was issued. Joel knocked on Emily's door that evening. "He's turning himself in tomorrow morning?" Emily sat in silence. "Are you okay?" he asked. She shook her head. "No." The next morning she stood outside the courthouse. Cameras flashed. Journalists shouted questions. Thomas was escorted through the crowd in handcuffs. He looked directly at Emily as he passed. No anger, just shame. In the weeks that followed, new discoveries emerged. The logging operation had ties to a real estate developer in Idaho. The permits had been forged. Rachel had stumbled onto the scheme while writing her article. She hadn't meant to uncover a criminal network, she just wanted to protect the forest. A girl with a notebook, curiosity, and a voice. And that made her dangerous. But something still didn't sit right. The last sentence in Rachel's letter, "I don't know if I'll make it back." If she had died, where was the body? No remains had ever been found, just the backpack, the broken charm, the photograph, the box. What if she had made it back? What if someone had helped her? Joel called one night. "I think we missed something," he said. "Where?" He hesitated. "Not where. Who?" It started with a receipt, filed under unrelated evidence from 2006. A rental cabin, paid in cash, reserved for 6 months, been under a false name. The handwriting on the form matched one of Rachel's old school projects. Emily stared at it. She rented this. They drove up the mountain the next day. The cabin was still there, locked. Secluded, Joel picked the door. Inside, dust, cobwebs, abandonment. But on the table a cup, still intact, still upright, and a jacket. Rachel's jacket. Emily stepped forward, her fingers grazing the fabric. Then she saw it. A photo on the windowsill. 2 women, smiling, Rachel, and someone else, someone who looked like... Emily's breath caught. She knew that face. Lydia Morgan. Joel stared at the photo. Lydia said she moved to Portland in 2006. She lied. She helped Rachel disappear. They drove back that night. Emily didn't call. She didn't warn. She waited outside Lydia's school the next morning. When Lydia saw her, her face drained of color. "I need to talk to you," Emily said. Lydia nodded. "I knew this day would come." They sat in the empty bleachers behind the track field. Lydia didn't deny it. She was terrified, she said. After she ran, she came to me. She had bruises. She hadn't slept in days. "You helped her hide?" "She begged me. She said she'd be safer if the world thought she was gone." "Why not come back?" "She was planning to. But then your dad found the cabin. She panicked, left before he got there." "Where did she go?" Lydia hesitated. "I don't know." "Lydia, I swear, Emily. She sent one last letter. Said she was going far. Somewhere no one could find her, not even me." Emily's hands trembled. "You lied to everyone. For years." "I protected her, and I protected you. I couldn't let you chase ghosts." Emily left without another word. That night she opened her inbox. One new email. No sender. Subject, "You're closer than you think." Attached, a photo. Rachel, older, hair shorter, wearing sunglasses, holding a child. The email vanished seconds later. She couldn't trace it, couldn't reply. But it didn't matter. She knew now. Her sister hadn't died. She'd disappeared on purpose. And someone, maybe Rachel herself, had just reached out. The photo didn't leave her mind. Rachel, unmistakably older, in a different life. A gentle smile, sunglasses pushed into her hair, holding a child no older than 3. Behind her, trees, a coastline, somewhere warm. Emily stared at the image until the sun came up. She didn't cry, not at first. Tears would come later, in waves. Unexpected, painful, cleansing. For now she just needed to breathe. She didn't tell Joel, didn't call Lydia, didn't forward the image. It wasn't fear, it was instinct. This wasn't for the public. Not yet. This was personal, and maybe, just maybe, it was a message. Her father was still in custody. He hadn't requested bail, didn't speak at the arraignment. Emily sat in the courtroom anyway, hidden in the back row, watching a man she barely recognized. His eyes were hollow, shoulders slumped. Once a soldier, now just a man aging faster than his years. He didn't look at her, and she didn't speak to him. Some wounds were too deep for apologies. She met Noah again the following week. They sat on a park bench overlooking the river. Neither said much at first. Finally he spoke. "Do you think she's happy?" Emily swallowed hard. "I hope so," he nodded. "She never wanted to be famous. She wanted peace. She deserved better. She deserved the truth, and you gave it to her." Emily shook her head. "I'm not sure she wanted to be found." "That's not what this is about," Noah said. "It's not about what she wanted. It's about what you needed." Silence. Then Emily whispered, "I needed her to be alive." Noah reached into his coat pocket. "I never told you this." He pulled out an envelope, old, yellowing. "She mailed this to me 6 months after she disappeared." Emily's hands trembled as she took it. Inside, 1 page. "Don't follow me. Don't grieve. Just live. That's all I ever wanted for you." Emily returned to the cabin, alone. She brought fresh flowers, lavender and white lilies. She placed them on the windowsill next to the photograph. She cleaned the dust, sat at the small wooden table, and began to write, not a report, not an article, a letter to Rachel. "Dear Rach, you won't read this. Maybe you already know everything I'm going to say. But I need to say it. I hated you for leaving, for not saying goodbye, for not fighting harder. And then I hated myself for not seeing it, for not protecting you. But now I see it clearly. You didn't run from us. You ran to something, maybe a new life, maybe freedom, maybe safety. I don't know where you are or if you'll ever come back, but you survived. And that's more than I ever dared to hope. I love you. I forgive you. I miss you. And I'm going to live now, like you wanted. M." She left the letter on the table, unlocked the door behind her, and walked back into the trees. Weeks passed. Emily returned to work, not the same as before. Something had changed in her. She listened deeper. She spoke softer. And every case, every family, every unanswered question. She felt it differently now, because she knew what it meant to live without answers. She knew what it meant to hope. Joel retired. The town quieted. The headlines faded. The forest kept its secrets, until one afternoon, a package arrived, no return address. Inside, a paperback book. Title, The Ridge. Author, R.M. Whitmore. Emily opened it with trembling hands. On the dedication page, to the sister who never stopped looking. "I love you." Emily finished the book in one sitting. It wasn't long, barely 200 pages, but it was rich with emotion, quiet, painful, beautiful. It wasn't a thriller. It wasn't about crime or conspiracy or the men who destroyed forests to build something no one needed. It was about 2 sisters, one who stayed, one who ran, and the ache that lived between them. Rachel didn't write about names or dates. She didn't mention their father. She never used the word abandoned. But she painted the moments with surgical precision, the whisper of wind through the trees, the feeling of moss beneath tired feet, the terror of watching headlights from behind a wall of branches, and hope. There was so much hope in those pages. The book became a quiet sensation. No marketing, no interviews, no public appearances. Just a story that traveled, person to person, reader to reader, like a secret meant to be whispered and carried. Emily never tried to contact the publisher. She never searched for where the manuscript came from, because she didn't need to. She knew. Joel called her months later. He'd settled in Oregon, living near his brother, tending a small garden. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm learning to be okay," she said. "Some days are heavier than others." "Do you think she'll ever come back?" Emily looked out the window. The wind was stirring the leaves in her backyard. "I think she already did, in the only way she could." Lydia reached out as well. A letter this time, no apology, just a memory. She used to hum when she was scared. Did you know that? A song from when you two were little. She hummed it the night she left the cabin. I think that's the part that broke me. Emily folded the letter and placed it inside the book. Page 37. That was the page where Rachel wrote, "We never know which goodbye will be the last. That's why I whispered it into the trees. Maybe the wind carried it back to her." Noah moved out of town, sold the restaurant, left a note on Emily's porch. "She was the best thing that ever happened to me. You were the second." She smiled when she read it. Not all stories had to end in reunion. Some just needed understanding. As the anniversary approached, 20 years since Rachel disappeared, Emily returned to Icicle Ridge, not for a press event, not for a vigil, alone, no cameras, just memory, just silence. She reached the clearing where the initials were carved. RW 2005, still there. Still faint, still hers. She sat down beside it and placed a small stone on the ground, then another, then another. A habit Rachel taught her once. 3 stones to say I was here. She stayed until dusk, watched the way the sun scattered gold through the leaves, the way the shadows stretched like memories across the moss. She didn't cry, not this time. There was peace here, a quiet that felt full. And then, just as she turned to leave, she saw it. At the base of the tree where the carving was, a fresh flower, lavender, not wilted, recently placed, no footprints, no sound, just the flower. Emily stood still for a long time, then smiled. Back at home, she placed the book on her shelf right next to Rachel's old journals. She opened the last one again. The back cover still had the faded imprint. "Don't trust the one who says they looked." Emily ran her fingers over the words. They no longer hurt. They reminded her that looking wasn't about finding, it was about not giving up. She sat at her desk, pulled out a clean page, and began to write. Not a report, not a letter, a new story about a girl who disappeared, and the sister who found something greater than closure. She found herself. Her voice would tremble during the first lines, but she'd steady it by the end. Because this wasn't a story about loss. It was a story about love that never needed permission to survive. And long after the cameras stopped filming and the headlines faded, and the world moved on to the next mystery, Rachel's story remained, not carved in stone, not etched in headlines, but planted in memory, like a flower at the base of a tree, silent but seen. And that laugh, the one that once echoed through the forest, would always live somewhere in the wind.